Welcome back to 4th grade Math Corner. We are going to be doing screenshot videos rather than teacher lesson videos. You will be able to follow along on my screen. Today we are going to be doing Module 6, Lesson 11. Our learning target says, today I will compare and order mixed numbers. So in the previous video, Mrs. Iacano talked to you about comparing decimals, fractions, and unit form numbers. Today we're going to use what Mrs. Iacano taught us, and we're going to compare and order many mixed numbers. First, in problem 1, it's asking us to plot the following points on the number line. Notice the numbers that we need to plot are all in different forms. We need to make sure we put them all in the same form in order to compare their place and their value. I'm going to turn them all into decimals since my number line here is written with decimals. I already have 0 and 2/10 written as a decimal, and then I have 1/10 written as a fraction. So over here I'm going to write all of them. That way I can keep track of the numbers I need to plot. There's the 0 and 2/10. Then it is 0 and 1/10. The next number is 0 and 33/100ths. And then the next number is a fraction. It says 12/100ths, so I know there's no holes, and 12 ending in the hundredths place. I have 0 and 21/100ths, which is already written for us in decimal form. And the last one is written in fraction form here. It is 32 out of 100, or 32/100ths. So I know there are 0 holes and 32 ending in the hundredths place. So now I need to take all these numbers and put them on my number line. I learned with whole numbers that when I compare, I look at the greatest value to see, or the greatest place value to see which is higher or lower. Looking at these numbers, they all have a 0 in the ones place, so they are all equal so far. So I go to the next place. The next place is the tenths. Here, I have a 2 in the tenths place. Here I have a 3 and a 3 in the tenths place. And here I have a 1 and a 1 in the tenths place. That will help me when ordering them because I will now know their different tenths. Looking here, 1 is the lowest tenths, so then I need to look. They seem similar because they both have 0 ones, 0 or 1/10, but then I have to look at the hundredths place. That's the next place. In this number, there is a 2 in the hundredths place. In this number here, there's nothing in the hundredths place. So I'm going to put a placeholder, which is a 0, and now it is 10/100ths. I know that 10/100ths is less than 12/100ths, and I see that this is 1/10 or 10/100. So I'm going to put my dot there, and I'm going to label it 0 and 1/10. I finish this. I'm going to cross it off so I know I've already used it. Now I need to go to 12/100ths. Oh, well, I'm going to zoom in on my line plot, and I see that these in between these numbers is 1/10. It's cut into 10, so I know that inside of a tenth are hundredths. There's 10/100ths. So if this is 1/10 and no hundredths, the next space here is going to be 11/100ths, or 1/10 and 1/100th. The next line is going to be 12/100ths, or 1/10 and 2/100ths, which is what I'm looking for. I'm going to label it 0 and 12/100ths. I'm going to cross it off so I don't use it again. Then I need to go to the next group of numbers that are higher than my 1/10. The next group are 2/10. I notice that this is 2/10 and 100th. This is 2/10, 2/10 and nothing. So I'm going to put a placeholder there, which is a 0, and that becomes 20/100ths. I know that 20/100ths is equivalent to 2/10, so I'm going to put a dot on 2/10, and I'm going to write 0 and 2/10. Again, it's jumping by tenths, and inside tenths are hundredths. So if this is 2/10 and no hundredths, then here it's going to be 2/10 and 100th. So I'm going to label it 0 and 21/100ths. Oops, I forgot to cross them out. Cross them out so I don't use them again. Go to the next group of numbers. They have 3/10. I'm looking up here. There's 0 and 3/10 200ths, or 0 and 32/100ths. Here is 0 and 3/10 300ths, or 0 and 33/100ths. I know that 32 is less than 33. So I'm going to come down to my number line. Here is 3/10 or 30/100ths. So here is going to be 31 and 32. I'm going to go ahead and put a dot there, label it 0 and 32/100ths. Cross it off. I know that one more is going to be 33, so I will put a dot there and label it 0 and 33/100ths. By looking at the place value, I was able to order all of my numbers. Now I can see that 1/10 is less than 12/100ths. 12/100ths is less than 2/10, but 2/10 is less than 21/100ths. 21/100ths is less than 32/100ths. 32/100ths is less than 33/100ths. 33/100ths is my greatest number that I've had. On your homework, it is also going to ask you to order numbers from least to greatest in decimal form using the greater than symbol. So we're going to go from greatest to least, and in between them, we're going to use the greater than symbol. Make sure you order them greatest to least, or whatever it says. Some of them will trick you and say least to greatest. Notice my numbers again are in different forms. I would like to order them. In order to order them, I need to put them in the same form. So 27/10 is, let's see, 10/10 makes a whole, so that would be 2 and 7/10. Then I'm just going to put them on top of each other, 2 and 7/100ths, 27/100ths, so 0 and 27. I'm going to keep going with the next number, which is here, is 2 and 71/100ths. My next one is 227/100ths. So I know it's going to end, I'm going to say 227. It ends in the hundredths place here. I need to find out where to put my decimal point, and if this is my hundredths, this is my tenths. So that means the next place is going to be my ones place. So I'm going to put my decimal there. And I have 272/100ths. If I put them on in order from greatest to least, I notice that they all start with a 2, except for this has a 0. That means it's going to be my lowest value. So I need to look at the next place with all my 2's. There's a 7, a 0, a 2, a 7, a 2, and a 7. I know 7 is my greatest number, so I need to look at the next place of the numbers with a 7. This number has nothing, so I'm going to put a placeholder in the hundredths place. It has a 0. Oh, that's not one of them. A 1 and a 2. I know that 2 is the greatest out of 0, 1, and 2, so I'm going to put that here. 2 and 72/100ths is greater than, what's the next biggest? We said that this has 70, or 7 and a 0. This has 71. I know 71 is bigger, so I will put that next. And then we'll come 2 and 70/100ths. Then I have to go to the next place. I have this has a 2 and this has a 2. The tenths has a 0, the tenths has a 2. That's going to be my next greatest is 2 and 27 hundredths, which is greater than 2 and 7 hundredths because it's the only one with a 2 left in the holes. And my last number, which has no holes, will be 0 and 27 hundredths. You will also have word problems on your homework, which is just asking you to compare the numbers. If you have any questions, please let us know.